Admiral Elena Reyes stepped onto the gleaming central platform of the Galactic Council chamber, her navy dress uniform standing out amid the exotic attire of the 17 elder species representatives. The chamber's crystalline walls pulsed with soft blue light as she presented humanity's latest gift, a revolutionary terraforming algorithm that could restore dead worlds. Distinguished members of the council, Elena began, her voice steady despite the subtle tension in her shoulders. Earth is honored to share this advancement with our galactic family. The algorithm has successfully restored 3 previously uninhabitable regions on Mars, and projections indicate it could work on scales much grander than our modest testing grounds. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the assembly. The Drell representative, a being composed of interlocking crystalline structures, sparkled with interest. The amorphous Nithar delegation shifted to shades of impressed purple, but Council Arbiter Zexthal's 4 eyes narrowed, his iridescent scales shifting from diplomatic green to cautious amber. Most generous, Admiral Reyes, Zexthal's voice resonated across the chamber, each word precisely measured. Humanity continues to surprise us with its rapid innovations. Elena didn't miss the hesitation in his voice. She'd spent 6 years representing Earth at these gatherings, learning to read the subtle cues of species whose evolutionary paths diverged from humanity's billions of years ago. Something in Zexthal's tone triggered a warning instinct, but she maintained her diplomatic smile. "We're simply repaying the Council's generosity," she replied. "Without your species sharing faster-than-light travel with us 30 years ago, we would still be confined to our solar system. Cooperation elevates us all." The Volari representative, a shadow-like being perpetually cloaked in wisps of darkness, drifted forward. "Humanity adapts our technologies with remarkable speed. What took my ancestors 3 centuries to refine, your species mastered in 3 decades." Before Elena could respond, alarm crystals embedded in the chamber walls flared to crimson life. A harmonized tone echoed through the space as the automated emergency system activated. "Unknown vessels approaching Council space," announced the synthetic voice. "Configuration matches no known registry. Vessels have not responded to standard identification protocols." Panic erupted among the delegates. The Grathi representatives, hulking, 6-limbed beings evolved from apex predators, rose to their full height, while the more delicate Lyrissi emitted distress pheromones that made Elena's eyes water. Zexthal rose majestically on his anti-grav platform, his scales now pulsing with authoritative gold patterns. The chamber quieted immediately. "We must enact emergency protocols," he announced. "The unknown fleet's trajectory suggests possible hostile intent, and their silence is concerning. The safety of all council members must be secured." He turned his penetrating gaze toward Elena. "Earth's defense system is most robust among our newer members. We seek temporary sanctuary on your world while we address this threat." Elena felt a surge of pride. Earth's defensive grid, a hybrid of human innovation and council technology, had become the standard for planetary protection in just 15 years. This was an opportunity to demonstrate humanity's value to the Alliance. "Of course, Arbiter," she responded without hesitation. "Earth stands ready to protect the Council. Our orbital platforms can accommodate all diplomatic vessels, and we have secure facilities prepared for emergency governance functions." Zexthal's scales rippled with what Elena interpreted as gratitude. "Your species' hospitality honors us. Admiral. Council members, prepare for immediate relocation to Earth space. Emergency session will reconvene there within 6 standard cycles." As the chamber emptied, Elena connected with Earth Defense Command to prepare for the distinguished arrivals. She failed to notice Zexthal's private communication with the Council fleet, or the way his scales briefly flashed a pattern that, had she understood Paxthalian body language, would have translated as predatory satisfaction. Unknown to Elena, there was no approaching fleet. The phantom readings existed only in falsified sensor data, a deception years in the planning. As she coordinated Earth's preparations to protect their galactic allies, Admiral Reyes had no idea she was opening the door to betrayal. Admiral Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital command station, watching as the Council vessels entered Earth's orbit in precise formation. The massive ships, each representing one of the elder species, gleamed in the sunlight as they positioned themselves equidistantly around the planet. All Council diplomatic ships accounted for, Admiral, reported Commander Santos, her tactical officer. Defense Grid acknowledges their presence as friendly. Shall I lower shields for their shuttle approach? Elena nodded, pride swelling in her chest. Proceed. Let's show our allies that Earth's hospitality matches its defense capabilities. The command center hummed with activity as Earth's personnel prepared for the arrival of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Security protocols were being finalized, diplomatic quarters prepared, and communication channels optimized for 17 distinct species requirements. Admiral, Santos said suddenly, her voice tightening. The Council ships are deploying. Something. Energy signatures don't match any known defensive systems. Elena rushed to the tactical display. Her blood ran cold as she saw a web of energy beginning to form between the Council vessels, not facing outward to protect against the supposed threat, but inward toward Earth. What are they doing? She demanded, opening a channel to Zexthal's flagship. Arbiter, there appears to be a misconfiguration in your defense deployment. Your systems are oriented toward Earth, not outer space. Zexthal's face appeared on the main view screen, his scales now a deep, triumphant crimson that Elena had never seen before. There is no misconfiguration, Admiral, he said coldly, and there is no external threat approaching Council space. The realization hit Elena like a physical blow. This was never about protection. Indeed, Zexthal's secondary eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of satisfaction in his species. The emergency is humanity itself. Your kind evolves too quickly, adapts too readily. In 3 decades, you've advanced what took other species millennia. The trajectory is clear and unacceptable. Around Earth, the energy web between Council ships intensified, forming a containment field that would prevent any vessel from leaving the planet's atmosphere. The Council has voted, Zexthal continued. Earth will be quarantined, permanently. Your colonies will be located and similarly contained. Humanity's unnatural advancement ends today. The command center erupted in chaos as alarms blared. Earth's defense grid attempted to respond, but the Council ships had been granted friend status, bypassing the automated countermeasures. This is genocide, Elena shouted, her composure fracturing. There are 11 billion people on Earth alone. Not genocide, Zexthal corrected with clinical detachment. Containment. Your species will be permitted to continue existing, within strict boundaries that ensure galactic stability. On her secondary display, Elena saw Earth's orbital defense platforms exploding in brilliant flashes as Council weapons targeted them systematically. Communications from planetary defense centers reported similar precision strikes against ground-based facilities. She noticed movement from the corner of her eye. 3 security drones entering the command center, their insignia marking them as Council enforcers rather than Earth personnel. They moved directly toward her. This station is now under Council authority, announced the lead drone. Admiral Reyes, you are remanded to custody as a potential evolutionary hazard. Elena's mind raced. Earth was lost, at least temporarily, but humanity had spread across 47 outposts and 12 colony worlds, if she could just warn them. She lunged for the emergency broadcast console, tackling the nearest drone as she passed. Its mechanical limbs grasped at her uniform, but missed as she rolled and came up running. The second drone deployed a stun field that she barely dodged. The third positioned itself between her and the console, weapons raised. Stand down, Admiral, it commanded. Resistance is. Elena didn't let it finish. Years of combat training took over as she swept its legs and used its falling body as a shield against the second drone's stun beam. The momentary advantage gave her enough time to reach the console and slam her palm against the biometric scanner. "Emergency Protocol Alpha," she gasped as the system recognized her. "Broadcast on all human frequencies. Priority override." The console glowed green as it connected to Earth's deep space relay network, not yet compromised by the Council forces. Alina felt the first drone's restraint field grazing her shoulder as she spoke. "Sanctuary Protocol. We've been betrayed. They're coming for all of us. Scatter and survive." The message transmitted just as the stun field enveloped her. The last thing Admiral Alina Rice saw before consciousness faded was Earth's beautiful blue sphere on the view screen, now encircled by a web of alien energy that sealed its fate, and perhaps that of humanity itself. Dr. Marcus Chen's hands trembled as Admiral Rice's message played for the third time on Europa Station's command center speakers. Through the viewport, Jupiter's swirling clouds seemed suddenly menacing rather than majestic. "Sanctuary Protocol. We've been betrayed. They're coming for all of us. Scatter and survive." The dozen scientists and station personnel stared at him, their faces pale in the blue emergency lighting. As station director, they expected him to have answers. He swallowed hard, forcing his analytical mind to work through the shock. "The Council fleet will reach Jupiter space within 18 hours, he calculated aloud, bringing up orbital projections on the main display. Standard protocol would have them secure the gas mining operations on Io first, then move outward to the research stations. Dr. Yasmin Kapoor, the station's quantum communications specialist, spoke up. "Can we contact Earth for clarification? This could be a mistake, or—" "It's no mistake," interrupted Security Chief Rodriguez, his face grim as he monitored incoming data. "I'm picking up emergency broadcasts from Luna Colony and Mars. Earth's orbital defenses have been systematically destroyed. Ground-based communications are being jammed except for Council-approved channels." Silence fell as the reality sank in. Europa Station, with its 47 personnel and cutting-edge xenobiology research, was now a target. Marcus straightened his shoulders. "Initiate emergency evacuation protocol Echo 7. We have research too valuable to lose and lives to save." "Echo 7?" questioned Rodriguez. "That's for catastrophic containment breach scenarios. It requires scuttling the station." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "We'll load essential research and personnel into the deep space shuttles. Set the reactor to overload on a 12-hour timer. When the Council arrives, they'll find nothing but debris." Across the solar system on the mining colony Demeter 9, a similar scene unfolded. Colonel Amara Okafor slammed her fist against the conference table, silencing the panicked executives. "We have 30 mining rigs that can be converted to carriers," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. 40 drill ships with adaptable hulls. 3 supply freighters with enough provisions for 6 months. Her dark eyes swept the room. "We evacuate now, or we die here. Those are the only options." Mining Director Patel shook his head in disbelief. "Convert mining equipment to evacuation ships? That's impossible. The structural modifications alone would take weeks." Amara's laugh held no humor. "Director, your engineers have been retrofitting mining equipment for off-specs operations since this colony was founded. I've seen them convert a pressure drill into a makeshift shuttle in 7 hours when that rescue team was stranded on asteroid 547b. She activated the room's holographic display, bringing up schematics of the colony's equipment. "We have 6 hours to turn this mining operation into a refugee fleet. Humanity's greatest skill is adaptation. Time to prove it." Meanwhile, aboard the Council flagship, Alina Reyes regained consciousness in a sterile detention cell. Her uniform had been replaced with a simple gray jumpsuit, and a neural suppression field hummed around the perimeter of the room, making her thoughts feel sluggish. The cell door slid open to reveal Arbiter Zexthal, his scales now a calm, controlled blue. 2 armed guards flanked him, their weapons trained on Alina. "Admiral Reyes," he greeted her. "I trust your accommodations are adequate." Elena remained seated on the edge of her bunk, conserving her strength. Why not just kill me? Cleaner than this charade of civility. Death creates martyrs, Zexthal replied smoothly. Besides, you possess valuable insights into human psychology that may prove useful during the transition period. Transition to what? Permanent imprisonment of an entire species. Zexthal's secondary eyes blinked in sequence, his species equivalent of a condescending smile. Your understanding is limited. The Council has studied human development extensively. Your species rewrites its own genetics in a single generation to survive new environments. You adapt technologies at rates that violate normal evolutionary patterns. He moved closer, his anti-grav platform humming softly. No species should evolve so quickly. It destabilizes the careful balance maintained for millennia. Elena met his four-eyed gaze without flinching. Then perhaps you should have considered that before cornering a species that thrives under pressure. Something flickered across Zexthal's expression. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. He recovered quickly, scales shifting to authoritative gold. Your warning message was intercepted, he lied smoothly. Council forces are already moving to secure all known human outposts. Resistance is pointless. Elena said nothing, but allowed herself a small smile. She knew the sanctuary protocol didn't rely on her broadcast alone. Even now, automated systems would be wiping colony locations from databases, activating dormant escape routes, implementing communication blackouts. Humanity had always prepared for the worst. It was what they did best. Across human space, evacuation pods screamed through atmospheres. Colony ships vanished into uncharted regions. Mining installations went suddenly, suspiciously silent. Council forces would arrive to find only empty habitats and cryptic messages scratched into walls or left on looping broadcasts. We were here. Find us if you can. 3 months after the betrayal, General Kara Santos stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a converted ice harvester that now bristled with makeshift weapons. Through the main view screen, she observed the growing collection of refugee vessels, hidden within the radioactive dust clouds of the Kuiper Nebula. The fleet had started with only 7 ships. Now she counted over 60. Status report, she ordered, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into her features. Lieutenant Carver's face glowed in the light of his tactical display. Resource processing is at 93% efficiency. The hydroponics labs reclaimed from Europa Station have been successfully converted to grow food in 1/5 Earth gravity. Engineering reports the mining lasers from Demeter 9 have been repurposed into point defense systems with enough power to disable Council scout ships. Santos nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. And the Titan refugees. That's the most impressive news, General, Carver replied, unable to hide his excitement. They've developed radiation shielding from mining waste. The material absorbs ambient radiation and converts it to usable power. They're calling it RadShield. With it installed, we could move deeper into the nebula where Council sensors are completely blind. Exactly what makes us dangerous to them is keeping us alive. Santos mused. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. This is General Santos. As of today, we've survived 97 days since the Council betrayal. Every projection they had for our extinction has failed. They expected us to be captured or dead. Instead, we grow stronger each day. She paused, allowing her words to reach every ship, every desperate human refugee who had escaped with nothing but their lives. Tomorrow, we implement Operation Mongoose, multiple small team insertions into abandoned human outposts to recover supplies and technology before the Council can analyze them. This isn't just about survival anymore. We're gathering strength for the day we take back what's ours. Meanwhile, in her Council cell, Admiral Elena Reyes marked the passing days with a disciplined mind, despite the neural suppressors. The interrogations had grown more frequent as Council forces grew increasingly frustrated with their inability to locate escaped human populations. The Epsilon colony was completely abandoned. Zexthal had raged during their last session. 8,000 humans vanished. leaving no trace of their destination. How is this possible? Elena had offered no answer, though she knew. Epsilon had been built with emergency sublevel hangars designed to house stealth evacuation ships, a contingency she had personally approved after studying historical human conflicts. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. It was simply human nature. The cell door slid open unexpectedly, interrupting her thoughts. Instead of the usual interrogation team, a single figure entered, a lanky, bioluminescent being Elena recognized as Trillax, a junior council member representing the Lumina species. "Admiral Reyes," Trillax whispered, skin pulsing with nervous patterns of light. "We don't have much time." Elena remained seated, suspicious. "What does the council want now?" "The council sent no one. I came on my own." Trillax moved closer, lowering their voice further. 8 council members voted against this genocide, but were overruled. "Some of us believe your species deserves to live." Elena studied the aliens' patterns of light, the Lumina equivalent of facial expressions. She detected no deception, only fear and resolve. "Why risk yourself for humans?" she asked cautiously. Trillax's skin dimmed to a soft blue. "My ancestors faced extinction 3 millennia ago, when the Grothi deemed us too empathic to be predictable. The Volari sheltered us then, arguing for diversity in the galactic community. Now I would continue that tradition." The alien produced a small device and deactivated Elena's neural suppressor. "Council forces have failed to locate most human outposts." Trillax continued. "Zexthal faces mounting criticism. The faction supporting humanity's right to exist grows stronger as reports of your species' innovations under pressure reach us." Elena stood slowly, her mind clearing as the suppressor's effects faded. "You're helping me escape. In 3 cycles, I'm scheduled to depart on a diplomatic vessel to the sickness sector. Security will be minimal, as I'm considered a loyal council member. The ship's systems have backdoor access points known only to my kind." Hope, dangerous and sharp, blossomed in Elena's chest for the first time since the betrayal. "If I escaped," she said, "I'll need access to council tactical data." Trillax's skin flashed with decisive patterns, already arranged. "Now we prepare. When we succeed, you must promise to remember that not all council species supported this betrayal." Elena nodded solemnly. "I'll remember. And when this is over, those who stood with humanity will find themselves standing with the victors." She allowed herself a grim smile. "Help me escape, Trillax, and I'll show the council just how deserving of life we are." Captain Julian Reeves nervously guided his scavenged vessel toward the rendezvous point, a small rocky moon orbiting a gas giant at the edge of Sector 47. The ship, cobbled together from parts salvaged during Operation Mongoose, shuddered slightly as he adjusted course. "Proximity alert," warned his navigation officer, Specialist Lin. "Unidentified vessel approaching coordinates." Julian's hands tightened on the controls. "Council?" "Negative. Signature doesn't match any council configuration." Lin frowned at her readings. "It's massive. At least 3 times our size. And sir, it's just appeared out of nowhere. No warp signature, no approach vector." Julian swallowed hard. This meeting had been arranged through encrypted channels, brokered by resistance sympathizers. General Santos had authorized the contact, but warned it could be a trap. "Shields at maximum," he ordered. "Weapons on standby." The view screen flickered to show their visitor. A sleek obsidian vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons, no identification markings. It hovered silently against the gas giant's rings. "We're being hailed," Lin reported. Julian took a deep breath. On screen, the communication displayed only audio. "Human vessel," came a voice like rustling leaves. "Approach docking bay 3. Come unarmed. We bring gifts." 30 minutes later, Julian led a small delegation through the airlock into the alien ship. The interior was dim, illuminated only by soft blue lighting that followed their movements. A delegation of shadow-cloaked figures awaited them. "I am Shrulvax," announced their leader, a being whose form seemed to shift between solid and vapor. Speaker for the Volari Concord. Julian recognized the name from briefings. The Volari, masters of stealth technology, known for their isolationist policies. They held a seat on the council, but rarely involved themselves in galactic politics. "The council believes we support their containment policy," Shrulvax continued. "They are mistaken. We bring you technology." She gestured, and attendants brought forward several containers. "Phase shift drives for your vessels. Molecular camouflage generators. Sensor damping field emitters." Julian stared in disbelief. "Why would you help us?" The Volari leader's form rippled, her voice somber. "Our ancestors were once hunted to near extinction by the Grothi. We recognize the shadow of that history repeating. Some wounds never heal, but they do teach." Across human space, similar meetings occurred in secret locations. Near the toxic clouds of Reinar IV, the sinuous Nithar delivered biofilters that would allow humans to breathe on worlds previously uninhabitable to them. "Your adaptability frightens the Council," explained the Nithar emissary, a fluid form being named Silprin. "They fear what they cannot predict. We, however, see the value in evolution. These biofilters will help your people colonize worlds the Council deems uninhabitable, places they will never think to look for you." In the asteroid fields of Sector 12, the crystalline Drell provided power matrices that would triple the refugee fleet's range and efficiency. "Energy is the universal constant," the Drell representative chimed, their crystalline form resonating with each word. "Life takes many forms, but all require power to persist. The Council has forgotten this fundamental truth. We have not." Meanwhile, Admiral Elena Reyes and Trillax executed their daring escape during a scheduled prisoner transfer. The plan unfolded with precision until an unexpected security check at the final checkpoint. "Authorization codes," demanded the security drone, its sensors sweeping over them suspiciously. Trillax's skin patterns shifted to authoritative configurations. "Override Alpha 69. Council priority." The drone hesitated, then moved to scan Elena more thoroughly. In a flash, Trillax produced a neural disruptor and disabled the machine. "Run," they shouted, grabbing Elena's arm. They sprinted through the corridors, alarms blaring around them. Two security officers appeared ahead. Elena dropped into a combat role, coming up with the fallen drone's weapon. Two precise shots left the guards unconscious. "This way," Trillax urged, leading her to a small hangar bay where a Council courier ship awaited. Minutes later, they burst from the Council flagship's docking bay, automated defense systems firing futilely as Trillax executed evasive maneuvers with unexpected skill. "The Cygnus Gate is heavily guarded," Elena warned as they approached the massive transportation nexus that connected this sector to three others. "Trust me," Trillax replied, their skin glowing with determined patterns. The courier ship accelerated toward the gate, dodging patrol vessels. Council communications channels erupted with orders to stop them. As they neared the gate, Trillax activated a previously hidden console. "Diplomatic override," they announced into the communication system. "Transmission follows." The ship's computer released a complex encrypted signal. The patrol vessels hesitated, their weapons powering down in confusion. "What did you just do?" Elena asked in astonishment, as they slipped through the gate uncontested. Trillax's skin glowed with satisfaction. "Transmitted the ship's complete tactical database to every human outpost my people could identify. Knowledge is your species' greatest weapon." Elena stared at her unlikely ally with new respect. Once safely through the gate, she opened a secure channel to the scattered human resistance. "This is Admiral Reyes. I've escaped Council custody with critical intelligence and an ally. The Council tried to eliminate us because they feared our adaptability. Let's show them exactly how justified that fear was." Deep within an ammonia ice cave on Rigel 7, a Council patrol moved cautiously through the crystalline formations. Their environmental suits gleamed in the dim blue light as they swept advanced sensors across the cavern. "Nothing," reported the lead officer, a grothy lieutenant with scaled armor. "No signs of habitation. This world is too toxic for human biology." His second-in-command nodded. "As expected, we should rejoin the main fleet. 3 more systems require inspection before—" "Wait," the lieutenant interrupted, his sensor suddenly registering an anomaly. "There's a pocket of warmer air behind that ice wall." They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The thermal scanner detected a slight temperature variation, barely noticeable, but present. The lieutenant signaled, and his team planted charges on the ice wall, stepping back before detonating them. The wall shattered, revealing a small chamber beyond. The patrol entered, finding nothing but smooth ice and— "What are these?" asked the second-in-command, gesturing toward 5 oblong objects half buried in the cave floor. They resembled smooth metallic cocoons, each roughly the size of a human body. The lieutenant scanned them. Organic material inside. Minimal power signatures. Some kind of stasis technology. He signaled to his team. "Mark this location. We'll return with a science team tow." The patrol departed, missing the nearly invisible sensors that tracked their movement. Inside each hibernation pod, a volunteer slept while specialized nanites reconfigured their lungs to process methane, a gas the Council species found instantly toxic. The pod's camouflage systems, derived from Volari technology, had worked perfectly. 3 months later, when the patrol returned with their science team, they found their outpost captured and their communication array redirected to human use. The hibernation pods were empty. The humans had awakened, adapted to the toxic atmosphere, and waited. Similar scenarios played out across 50 star systems as humans demonstrated warfare in environments the Council considered uninhabitable. Mining colonies thought abandoned were revealed as ambush points. Research stations presumed destroyed became staging grounds for resistance operations. Aboard the Council flagship, Admiral Zextal's scales faded to sickly yellow during an emergency session of the remaining loyal Council members. "Impossible," hissed the grothy representative, pounding his armored fist on the conference table. "They were primitive savages with barely functional warp drives 3 decades ago. Now they evade our best tracking systems and strike where we cannot follow. How are they doing this?" Zextal had no answer. The screens around them displayed reports of Council supply ships vanishing, outposts going silent, and communication relays failing. "The Volari delegation has not reported in for 6 standard cycles," noted the Lyrisi representative, her delicate features contorted with worry. "The Nithar Coalition has formally requested to be excused from containment operations, citing ethical concerns. The Drell have withdrawn to their home systems, claiming neutrality." "Cowards and sympathizers," Zextal spat, his ceremonial robes hanging loosely from his diminished frame. The stress of the failing campaign had taken its physical toll. The humans must be contained. The alternative is unthinkable. Across the table, a junior official dared to speak. "Perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They target military assets but avoid civilian casualties. There might be room for—" "Silence," Zextal thundered. "There will be no negotiation with evolutionary aberrations." Meanwhile, from the hidden fortress designated Europa Actual, a converted asteroid base in an unnamed system, Elena Reyes commanded the resistance. The command center hummed with activity as officers coordinated operations across hundreds of light years. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "Operation Echo is ready for implementation." Elena studied the holographic display showing their targets, 57 key communication relays that formed the backbone of the Council's quantum entanglement network. The plan had been months in development, utilizing technology from all 3 of their alien allies combined with human ingenuity. "The beauty of this plan," she told the assembled officers, "is its simplicity. The Council relies on instantaneous communication. We take that away, and their forces become isolated, unable to coordinate. She turned to the communications officer. Send the activation code. Across council space, hidden devices attached to communication relays activated simultaneously. Each generated a field that disrupted quantum entanglement itself. Technology the Drell had provided, enhanced by human engineers to work on a scale never before attempted. One by one, the dots on the tactical display turned from blue to red as council communication nodes went dark. Not destroyed. They still function normally for conventional communications, but no longer able to transmit instantaneously across light years. Communication disruption confirmed, reported the tactical officer. Council fleet coordination has collapsed. Alina allowed herself a tight smile. Initiate Phase 2. Throughout Council territory, hidden human strike teams emerged from hibernation, from stealth vessels, from camouflaged bases, each targeted isolated Council military assets now cut off from command. The message transmitted by each team after completing their mission was identical. This is humanity. We will not be contained. Council Arbiter Zextal's ceremonial chambers felt suddenly cold as reports streamed in from across once secure space. His scales had faded to a dull gray, losing the vibrant patterns that had once signified his authority and confidence. Summarize, he ordered the junior officer who had entered with yet another data tablet. The officer, a young Lyrisi whose delicate features couldn't hide her nervousness, consulted her notes. The shipyards at Aurelian Prime are surrounded by vessels of unknown configuration. The supply lines to the Proxima sector have been severed. Military outposts in 12 systems report complete communication blackout. Zextal's secondary eyes closed in a gesture of dismay. Casualties. Minimal, the officer replied, surprise evident in her tone. The human forces are disabling rather than destroying. They isolate our military assets, neutralize defenses, then broadcast their message before disappearing. They're remarkably precise. Before Zextal could respond, his private communication console chimed with an urgent alert. The large view screen on his chamber wall activated automatically, indicating a priority override from the highest levels of Council authority. The screen split into 7 sections, each showing a Council homeworld. But instead of the expected emergency communications from Council leadership, each feed showed massive public gatherings. Citizens by the millions had assembled in central plazas, watching enormous projection screens. And on those screens were the faces of their own leaders, standing alongside humans. "What is this?" Zextal hissed, rising from his seat. The Volari High Speaker's unmistakable shadowy form appeared on the first screen, addressing not just her own people but billions across the galaxy. "Your leaders have deceived you. The human containment was never about security. It was about fear of change, fear of evolution. Your betrayal of humanity revealed your willingness to betray any of us." The feed switched to footage of human rescue operations, showing them evacuating injured Council species from damaged outposts. "They could have bombed our civilian centers in retaliation," the Volari leader continued. "Instead, they spared our people while dismantling only military targets. 7 Council species now stand with humanity against this unjust persecution." Similar broadcasts played across all 7 screens. The leaders of the Nithar, the Drell, the Lumina, and 3 other Council races, each denouncing the betrayal and declaring alliance with humanity. Zextal's scales rippled with fury. "Treachery. Disconnect this propaganda immediately." The Lyrisi officer stepped back, her voice trembling. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies, Arbiter. We cannot stop it." Zextal's mind raced through options, each more desperate than the last. Finally, he activated his secure terminal, inputting a series of complex authorization codes. "Arbiter," questioned the officer, "what are you doing?" "What is necessary?" he replied grimly. "The Council maintains certain deterrents for existential threats. The quantum dissolution weapons were never meant to be used, but the humans leave us no choice. The terminal confirmed his authorization, displaying deployment options for weapons of unimaginable destructive potential. Weapons capable of unraveling matter at the quantum level, turning entire planets into dispersed atomic particles. Target all known human concentration points, Zexthal ordered the system. Maximum yield. The confirmation required his biometric authorization. As he pressed his palm to the scanner, a shadow fell across the room. He turned to find his personal security detail standing in the doorway, weapons raised, not at the Larissi officer, but at him. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "The deployment codes have been redirected," announced the lead guard, his voice firm. "By order of the Emergency Council session currently in progress, you are relieved of command." The launch notification on his screen confirmed the guard's statement. The weapons had been activated, but their targeting coordinates had been changed to an uninhabited star system 3 sectors away. On screens across the galaxy, the massive detonation was visible. A star system annihilated in seconds, the light reaching even distant worlds as a visible flash. A demonstration of what could have happened to populated worlds. The guard stepped forward, producing restraints. "Arbiter Zexthal, you are charged with attempted genocide, abuse of authority, and violation of the Council's founding charter." As they led him away, Zexthal caught a glimpse of the view screen. The broadcast had changed to show Admiral Elena Reyes addressing a gathering of representatives from both human colonies and Council worlds. "Today marks the end of persecution and the beginning of understanding," she was saying. "Humanity offers peace to all Council species willing to recognize our autonomy. Those who stood with us will find Earth ready to forge new bonds of cooperation. Those who opposed us will find justice, not vengeance." Zexthal's final thought, as the doors closed behind him, was one of begrudging recognition. The humans hadn't just outfought the Council. They had outfought them at every turn. The newly constructed Concordat chamber gleamed under the light of 3 suns, its architecture a harmonious blend of 22 distinct species design philosophies. Crystalline spires reminiscent of Drell structures supported a dome of Volare light-absorbing material. The chamber floor featured intricate terraforming patterns developed by human engineers, allowing representatives of various atmospheric requirements to breathe comfortably without environmental suits. Chancellor Elena Reyes moved deliberately to the central podium, her formal diplomatic attire bearing subtle elements from each allied species. The scars on her face remained unhealed by readily available medical technology, a deliberate choice, a testament to humanity's struggle and survival. Representatives from all formerly Council species rose in respect as she approached, even those now under reparation sanctions. 2 years had transformed Elena from a military admiral to a political leader, but her bearing remained that of a commander who had guided her people through their darkest hours. "We gather not to create another hierarchy, but a true alliance," Elena began, her voice carrying to billions watching the proceedings across the galaxy. "The betrayal we suffered might have turned us into conquerors, but humanity's true strength isn't our ability to fight. It's our ability to forge connections even with former enemies." The main view screen displayed images from joint humanitarian missions where humans worked alongside former Council species to rebuild outposts damaged during the conflict. "Our rapid evolution, the very quality that frightened the old Council, has proven to be our greatest gift to galactic society," Elena continued. "In 2 years, human medical techniques adapted for Grathi physiology have cured a degenerative condition that plagued their species for millennia. Human-designed atmospheric processors have allowed the Larissi to reclaim worlds lost to industrial pollution. The formerly persecuted have become the healers." In his observation chamber, former Arbiter Zexthal watched the proceedings with complicated emotions playing across his scaled features. Under house arrest awaiting final judgment, he had been permitted to witness the ceremony as part of his rehabilitation. "She speaks with wisdom beyond her years," noted his attendant, Trillax, who had been assigned to monitor him. Zexthal's scales shifted to a pattern reflecting reluctant acknowledgement. "Perhaps we were wrong to fear their advancement." Back in the chamber, Elena gestured to the central holographic display, which illuminated with the text of the Galactic Concordat, a document that had taken 18 months of careful negotiation. "Today we establish new principles," she announced. "Technological cooperation rather than hoarding. Cultural exchange rather than isolation. Protection of all sentient life regardless of evolutionary trajectory. And most importantly, the recognition that diversity, of biology, of thought, of adaptation, strengthens us all." One by one, representatives approached to place their biological signatures on the document. The Volari representative left a shadow impression that would never fade. The Drell crystallized a portion of the document with their touch. The human delegation provided traditional handwritten signatures alongside DNA markers. Dr. Marcus Chen, now leading Earth's Xenobiology Division, signed with a flourish. Beside him, General Kyra Santos, her military rank maintained as a symbol of vigilance, added her own signature with a steady hand. Amara Okafor, whose mining expertise had saved thousands during the initial evacuation, represented the outer colonies with her signature. And finally, Julian Reeves, the captain who had first contacted the Volari, signed on behalf of the fleet that had kept humanity alive during its darkest days. As the ceremony concluded, the chamber's dome became transparent, revealing the launch of the first joint exploration fleet, ships that bore the insignia of all 22 allied species. Former warships now carried scientists, explorers, and diplomats toward uncharted space. Elena watched the ships ascend, remembering the desperate message she had broadcast 2 years ago. From containment to freedom, from persecution to leadership, humanity had come full circle. They feared what humanity might become, she told an aide as they watched the vessels disappear into the starfield. Now they'll discover what we can all become together. In his observation room, even Zexthal found himself moved by the sight. His scales shifted to a color pattern unseen in his species for generations, the hue of transformation, of old beliefs giving way to new understanding. Perhaps, he whispered to himself, evolution is not something to be feared after all. Throughout the galaxy, on thousands of worlds and outposts, beings of all species watched the ceremony. On Earth, crowds gathered in rebuilt cities to celebrate. On colony worlds, humans who had hidden in toxic swamps and radiation belts emerged fully to claim their place in the new alliance. On Council homeworlds, citizens embraced the change that promised a more just future. And on a small research vessel at the edge of known space, a human scientist worked alongside a young Paxthalian researcher, a member of Zexthal's own species. Together, they catalogued a newly discovered planetary system with promising signs of pre-sentient life. "We'll need to establish observation protocols," noted the Paxthalian, "to ensure we don't interfere with their natural development." The human nodded in agreement, and to make sure that when they're ready to join us, they find a community worth joining. The galaxy continued its eternal spin, but something fundamental had changed. Where once there had been hierarchy, now there was partnership. Where there had been fear of the different, now there was curiosity. The betrayal that had meant to end humanity had instead given birth to something greater, a new galactic order built not on control, but on connection.